What if I told you your greatest failures were never meant to break you but to build you? That rock bottom isn't the end, but the beginning of everything extraordinary. You've fallen, yes, but not for defeat. You fell to rise stronger. Welcome to 10 positive failures to success, a journey of heartbreak, rejection, loss, and collapse that gave birth to greatness. This is not just motivation. This is transformation. This is your moment. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror, shattered not on the outside, but inside, cracked by life, splintered by disappointments, and barely holding yourself together? We all have. Because no matter how strong you appear, life will find a way to break you. But here's the truth they don't often tell you. Breaking is not the end. Breaking is the beginning. The beginning of something raw, something real, something that was hidden underneath the layers you've been told to wear: perfection, control, image, pride. When life breaks you, it's not destroying you, it's revealing you. You see, society celebrates strength. But what is strength without struggle? They show you the success story, the victory speech, the $1 million smile. But behind every powerful rise, there's a painful breaking point they often edit out. A moment when someone sat in the dark, with nothing left to offer, nothing left to prove, and chose to not stay there. That's where it all begins. We live in a world terrified of failure. We're taught to hide it, deny it, cover it with filters and fake confidence. But the truth is, failure is the most honest teacher we'll ever meet. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't sugarcoat. It strips away the noise and says, "This is who you are right now." But it doesn't have to be who you stay. Think about it. When did you truly grow? Was it when everything went according to plan? When life was smooth and comfortable? Or was it in the middle of the storm? When the plan shattered? When the people you trusted walked away? When the ground beneath your feet gave out and all that remained was you? That kind of breaking hurts. It's supposed to. But in that pain is a mirror. And if you dare to look into it, really look, you'll find a version of yourself that's stronger than anything you've ever seen. Breaking strips away the ego. It humbles. It exposes. But most importantly, it plants. Like a seed crushed by the weight of the earth, something inside begins to grow. Something that could never have sprouted if the shell hadn't. Split open. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think their breaking makes them less. But what if your breaking is what makes you more compassionate, more driven, more aware, more real? There's a Japanese art called kintsugi, the repairing of broken pottery with gold. The cracks aren't hidden. They're highlighted because, in that culture, the breaking is part of the beauty. The gold-filled fractures tell the story of survival, of resilience, of rebirth. You are kintsugi. Your scars are not your shame. They're your signature. And I know, right now, maybe you're in the middle of your breaking. Maybe you're facing rejection, failure, loss, and the pressure feels unbearable. Like everything is falling apart. Like the weight is too much. But pressure is what makes diamonds. Fire is what purifies gold. And breaking is what makes you unshakable. Let me remind you of this. Nothing truly great ever emerged without first falling apart. The cocoon has to rip for the butterfly to fly. The ground must crack open before the seed becomes a tree. The heart must break before it learns how to truly love. You are not broken. You are becoming. There's a sting that hits deeper than failure. It's rejection. It doesn't just tell you that something didn't work, it tells you that you're not wanted, not chosen, not enough. And that hurts. Maybe it was the job you dreamed of, the person you loved who didn't love you back, the opportunity you poured everything into, only to hear no. Rejection doesn't knock politely, it slams the door. And it leaves you outside, questioning your worth, your abilities, your place in the world. But listen carefully. Rejection is not the end of your story. It is simply the moment you were pushed away from the wrong chapter and redirected toward the right one. Think about that. We take rejection so personally. We feel like it's a mark against who we are, like someone saw all of us and decided we weren't enough. But what if rejection isn't personal? What if it's protective? What if life is saying, this door is closed because what's behind it is not aligned with your destiny? Let that sink in. Sometimes what you thought you wanted would have actually destroyed you. The person who left wasn't your future. The opportunity you missed would have kept you small. The stage you were denied wasn't built strong enough to hold your purpose. Look at the lives of people we admire. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before one finally said yes. Oprah was told she was unfit for TV. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. They weren't just overlooked, they were denied, dismissed, and underestimated. But that rejection didn't end their journey. It launched it. Because they didn't let the no define them, they used it. They transformed it. They realized something powerful. Rejection is redirection. You see, every no clears the path for the right yes. Every closed door narrows your focus. It removes distraction. It builds character. It creates hunger. Have you ever noticed that rejection wakes something up inside you? At first, it crushes you, but then something stirs. That quiet voice inside that says, I'm not done. I still believe. I still have more. And from that place something unshakable is born. Because when the world doesn't choose you, you learn to choose yourself. And that, right there, is the turning point. When you stop needing external validation, when you realize that your value isn't up for debate, when you understand that no one can deny what's meant for you, you start walking with power. Not arrogance, not ego, just purpose, quiet, determined, undeniable purpose. And that's when the right people find you. That's when the right doors open. That's when the rejections that once broke you start to build you. Rejection has a way of refining your vision, of forcing you to ask deeper questions, of pulling you out of comfort and into courage. It teaches you what to let go of. Who to stop chasing, where to stop settling. Because not everything you want is what you need. Sometimes the greatest blessing is the door that didn't open. So the next time you face rejection and you will don't see it as a dead end. It's a detour to something greater, something more aligned, something built for the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. There's a unique kind of pain that comes with financial failure. It's not just about the empty bank account, it's about the shame, the silence, the late night stress, the pretending you're okay when you're not, the smile you fake while inside. You're wondering how you'll make it to next week. Money may not define our worth, but let's not lie to ourselves. When we lose it, it feels like losing a piece of security, a piece of stability, and sometimes a piece of identity. Maybe you've been there. Maybe your business collapsed. Maybe debt piled up until it drowned your dreams. Maybe you took a risk and it backfired. Maybe you worked so hard, gave it everything, and still ended up with nothing. It hurts. It humbles you. It strips you down to your rawest form. But here's what most people won't tell you. Financial ruin isn't the end. Sometimes it's the foundation. Because when everything is gone, when the cards, the credit, the cushion, the comfort all vanish, something else emerges. Clarity. You begin to see what really matters. You start discovering who you are without the noise of success. You realize how many things you thought you needed, you didn't. And in that silence, in that scarcity, something powerful begins to take root. Resourcefulness. You stop throwing money at problems and start thinking. You stop relying on what you had and start building what you can have. You get creative. You get desperate. But more importantly, you get real. Some of the most world-changing businesses, books, inventions were born out of someone being flat-out broke. Why? Because being broke forces reinvention. Because when comfort is gone, clarity becomes non-negotiable. Because when your back is against the wall, you don't just find answers, you become one. Let's talk about people like Tyler Perry, who was homeless and living in his car while trying to sell tickets to plays no one wanted to see. Today, he owns one of the largest film studios in the world. Or Howard Schultz, who grew up in housing projects and couldn't afford basic needs, yet later turned Starbucks into a global empire. Their financial ruin didn't disqualify them, it qualified them. Why? Because it taught them resilience. Money comes and goes, but the mindset you develop in the valley, the hunger, the discipline, the patience that never leaves you, it becomes your edge. When you've had nothing and fought your way forward, there's a fire inside you that no one can extinguish. You don't just build wealth, you build wisdom. And wisdom can't be bought. It's earned through the storms. There's also another side of financial failure we don't often discuss: identity. We link who we are to what we have. So when we lose everything, we think we are nothing. But listen, your worth is not in your wallet. Your power isn't in a paycheck. Your value doesn't disappear just because your finances do. Losing money doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human. And getting back up after losing it, that makes you unstoppable. So if you're in the place right now where you're counting coins, where every decision feels like survival, where you lie awake at night wondering how to rebuild, let me remind you, you're not starting over with nothing. You're starting over with experience, hunger, and a story that will someday inspire others to believe that broke doesn't mean broken. There's a moment that feels like the ground has been ripped out from under you. It happens when you lose your job. Not just your paycheck, but your position, your rhythm, your identity. You sit there staring at a termination letter or packing up your desk. or walking out of a place you gave years of your life to, wondering, what now? For so many of us, our careers become more than what we do, they become who we are. We attach our worth to our work, our purpose to our profession, our meaning to our title. So when it all falls apart, it doesn't just bruise the ego, it crushes the soul. But here's the truth hidden inside the chaos. Career collapse is often the crack where your true calling begins to shine through. Let that sink in. Sometimes life has to remove you from what's safe to push you toward what's significant. It doesn't feel like it in the moment. At first, it just feels like failure. It feels like you've wasted your time, like you've been discarded, like everything you built just vanished overnight. But what if that job you lost was the thing blocking you from your destiny? What if that structure you depended on was limiting the power that lives inside you? So many people spend decades building a life they don't love, working for companies that don't see them, in roles that drain them, all because they fear what would happen if they let go. But when the collapse chooses you, when you're forced to face it, you get something rare, a chance to start again. But this time, on your terms. Think about the people who changed the world: entrepreneurs, artists, authors, leaders. A surprising number of them started their journeys after losing jobs, being laid off, or walking away from careers that no longer fit who they were becoming. Because that collapse, it creates space. Space to breathe, space to reflect. Space to finally ask, what do I really want? Who do I really want to be? There's a fire that comes when you lose what was never truly yours. It hurts, but it frees you. You begin to realize that your skills, your passion, your voice don't belong to one company, one title, one resume line. They belong to you, and you get to decide how to use them. Some of the most powerful callings are born not in success, but in silence. In the stillness after collapse, when you stop chasing promotions and start listening to purpose. When you stop asking for permission and start building something of your own. It may look like you've been set back, but sometimes being knocked off the ladder is the only way to realize you are climbing the wrong one. This is the moment when people pivot, when they launch businesses, when they go back to school, when they finally pick up that dream they shelved years ago and say, why? Not now. Because once you've lost what you thought was your career, you're no longer trapped by fear of losing it. You've already survived the worst. Now. You're dangerous. Now. You're free. And that freedom, that raw, uncertain, terrifying freedom is where the magic begins. Nothing shatters you quite like the end of a relationship. Whether it's a breakup, a divorce, a betrayal, or just a slow, silent drifting apart, it cuts deep. Because relationships aren't just about love. They're about identity. We build lives around people. We make promises. We share secrets. We dream together. And when it ends, it's not just the person you lose. You lose the future you imagined. You lose the version of yourself that existed in that connection. You lose the comfort of what you thought was unshakable. And it hurts. It hurts more than most people are willing to admit. You lie in bed replaying every moment, trying to understand what went wrong. You scroll through old photos, looking for clues. You wonder if you were the problem, or if you just weren't enough. But let me tell you something that most people don't hear often enough. Just because a relationship ends doesn't mean you failed. Some people come into your life not to stay but to teach. Some loves are not forever, but they are for something. Maybe that heartbreak was the lesson that finally opened your eyes. Maybe it was the pain that pushed you back toward yourself. Maybe it was the breaking that set you free from the patterns you were stuck in for too long. You see, there's something about heartbreak that wakes you up. It exposes everything you ignored. It pulls up your wounds. It makes you sit with your loneliness, with your fears, with the parts of you that were hiding behind the comfort of we. It's easy to lose yourself in someone else. To shrink. To bend. To become what they want, while forgetting what you need. But when it ends, when it all falls apart, you're left with the one person you can never run from, yourself. And that's where healing begins. Healing isn't about finding someone new. It's about finding the you that you abandoned. It's about reclaiming your time, your voice, your soul. It's about walking through the fire of loneliness and emerging whole, not because someone saved you, but because you saved you. Heartbreak forces you to ask hard questions. Why did I settle? Why did I stay? Why did I believe I couldn't be loved the way I deserved? And as painful as those questions are, they are sacred, because in those answers, you begin to rebuild, not just your heart, your standards. Your boundaries. Your worth. This isn't about blaming the other person. It's not even about being angry. It's about awakening. It's about realizing that sometimes the end of us is the beginning of you. There are people who will leave. There are people who will hurt you. But none of them have the power to take away your ability to rise again unless you give it to them. Your healing doesn't come from closure. It comes from truth, from facing the pain instead of running from it. From turning inward and saying, I may be broken right now, but I will not stay broken. And slowly, quietly, piece by piece, you begin to feel again. You begin to breathe again. You begin to love again, first yourself, then the world, then maybe, one day, someone new. But this time, not from desperation, not from fear, not to be completed, but from wholeness, from peace, from truth. There's a pain unlike any other. The pain of being exposed, judged, mocked, laughed at. Humiliation isn't just failure, it's failure seen. It's when your lowest moment becomes a public spectacle. When people whisper, point, or worse, pretend to comfort you while secretly enjoying your downfall. You know the feeling. The heat in your face, the knot in your stomach. The overwhelming desire to disappear, to rewind time, to erase it all. Whether it was a mistake you made in front of a crowd, a secret that got leaked, a breakdown that went viral, or simply the cruel words of others, turning your pain into their entertainment. Humiliation doesn't just bruise your ego, it crushes your spirit. And yet, let me tell you something powerful. Your worst public moment can become your greatest personal breakthrough. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it lingers. Yes, you'll relive it again and again in your mind, wondering how you'll ever recover. But inside that shame, inside that dark, suffocating space, is a door, A door that few people find because they're too busy running from the pain instead of walking through it. That door leads to authenticity. You see, when you've been stripped of your image, when you've been humbled in front of others, when your mask has been shattered and the world sees you bleeding something raw and real is born, you realize you're still standing. You realize the shame didn't destroy you. You realize you don't need to pretend anymore, because once you've been humiliated and survived, the fear of people's opinions loses its power. There is nothing more liberating than having nothing left to hide. Think of the greatest leaders, the most admired voices, the boldest creators. Many of them have walked through public failure. Brené Brown stood on a TED stage and spoke about shame. Just after experiencing the sting of public criticism, Steve Jobs was publicly fired from the very company he founded. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. Labeled a criminal only to emerge a global icon for peace, their stories didn't end in shame. They started in it, because humiliation strips you of performance. It crushes pride. It brings you face to face with the question, who am I now that the world has seen me at my worst? And here's the answer. You are still worthy, not because people approve, not because you've redeemed yourself in their eyes, but because your worth was never theirs to decide. This is where strength is forged, in the fire of rejection, ridicule, and embarrassment, not behind closed doors, not in quiet victories, but in the spotlight when you've fallen, and all eyes are on you and you rise anyway. You don't have to run from your story. You don't have to erase the moment you were laughed at. You don't have to bury the memory of that failure. You can own it. You can stand in it. You can say, yes, that was me, but I didn't stay there. Because strength isn't the absence of humiliation, it's what you build on the other side of it. It's walking into the same room where you once fell, with your head high. It's hearing the whispers and choosing to speak louder anyway. It's no longer shrinking to protect your pride, but growing to protect your truth. Public humiliation may feel like your story is over, but in truth, it might be the chapter that finally sets you free. There's a kind of pain that doesn't leave a bruise. It doesn't bleed, but it cuts deep straight to the soul. Betrayal. When someone you trusted, someone you let into your heart, your life, your inner world, turns their back on you. It could be a friend who talked behind your back, a partner who broke their vow, a colleague who stabbed you in the back for their own gain, a family member who abandoned you when you needed them most. It doesn't matter the form it takes. Betrayal always feels the same, like a rug pulled from beneath you, like your reality is suddenly a lie, like you're standing in the wreckage of a relationship you thought was real. And the worst part? It makes you question everything. Your judgment, your value, your ability to trust. You start to ask, how didn't I see this coming? Was I not enough? Was I a fool to believe in them? But hear this. Betrayal says more about them than it ever will about you. Someone else's decision to lie, to leave, to hurt you, that's a reflection of their integrity, not your worth. Still, the pain is real, because when trust breaks, it feels like a part of you breaks with it. You feel exposed, unsafe, guarded. Walls go up. Smiles become armor. You start to protect yourself from the world, and sometimes even from yourself. But here's where the transformation begins. Betrayal is not the end of your ability to trust. It's the beginning of your ability to see the truth. Not just the truth about others, but about yourself. Because in the aftermath of betrayal, something sacred rises. Clarity. Discernment. Strength. You begin to see who's for you and who's only around when it benefits them. You learn to stop begging for loyalty and start demanding honesty. You stop lowering your standards in the name of love and start raising your boundaries in the name of respect. You learn that your heart can be broken and still beat, that your spirit can be shattered and still stand, that your kindness is not weakness and your forgiveness is not a free pass. You start to rebuild, but this time with bricks made of wisdom, not just emotion. You start to choose people not based on potential, but based on patterns. You begin to ask, does this person honor my presence or just use my peace? And the most powerful realization of all, you don't need everyone to stay. You just need to stop betraying yourself. Sometimes the greatest betrayal isn't what someone else did to you, it's what you allowed. In the name of love, approval, or fear, it's the way you silenced your gut when it whispered, "This isn't safe." It's the way you ignored the red flags because you didn't want to lose them, even if it meant losing you. But now you know better. Now, you don't beg for loyalty, you embody it. Now, you don't chase love, you become love. And once you learn how to protect your energy, honor your truth, and walk away from what dishonors you, betrayal can no longer break you. It becomes a lesson, a threshold, a turning point, because you've learned some people are here to teach you how to love. Others are here to teach you how to never settle again. And you are still here, still standing, still capable of trusting, of loving, of rising. Even after everything, there's nothing that brings life into sharp focus quite like a health crisis. One day, you're moving through life busy, driven, maybe even taking your body for granted. And then everything stops. The diagnosis, the accident, the chronic pain, the slow deterioration that you never saw coming. Suddenly, everything that seemed urgent fades. Deadlines, emails, status, goals. All of it becomes background noise when your body says, no more. When your health breaks down, so does your illusion of control. You find yourself in sterile hospital rooms, scanning lab results you don't understand, trying to hide the fear in your voice when you ask, is it serious? And in that moment, all your priorities shift. You don't care about being impressive, you just want to be alive. You don't chase numbers or achievements, you just want to wake up without pain. You just want to feel like yourself again. But here's the truth that most people miss sometimes. The breakdown of your body leads to the breakthrough of your soul. A health crisis is not just a physical disruption, it's an emotional and spiritual awakening. It strips away everything surface level and forces you to confront the deepest question of all. Am I truly living or just existing? When you're forced to slow down, when you have no choice but to rest, to reflect, to listen, you start to hear things you ignored for years. The stress you carried, the boundaries you never set, The way you pushed your body beyond its limits for validation, success, or someone else's approval. Illness has a strange way of becoming a mirror. It reflects your patterns. It exposes your fears, and if you're willing, it teaches you how to heal from the inside out. You begin to see health differently. Not as something you chase only when it's gone, but as something sacred worth protecting every single day. And if you've ever walked through the valley of sickness, whether physical, mental, or emotional, you know something most people don't. Health isn't guaranteed. Not tomorrow, not next year. And that truth, it wakes you up. You stop postponing joy. You stop tolerating stress like it's a badge of honor. You stop sacrificing yourself on the altar of productivity. Because you've seen what happens when your body can't carry your ambition. You felt the fear of fragility. And now you choose balance over burnout, presence over pressure. Peace over performance. You begin to heal, not just through medication, but through intention. You drink more water. You breathe more deeply. You move with awareness. You sleep like it matters. You let go of what's toxic, not just in your diet, but in your environment, your relationships, your thoughts, and in that healing process, you rediscover yourself. The you beneath the hustle. The you beneath the pressure. The you who doesn't need to prove anything because simply being alive is already enough. A health crisis humbles you. It slows you down. But it also opens your eyes to the miracle you are. And no, healing isn't always linear. Some days are full of progress. Others feel like defeat. But each day you choose to get up, to try again, to honor your body instead of punishing it. That's a breakthrough. Because strength doesn't always look like lifting weights or pushing through. Sometimes it looks like rest. Like asking for help. Like saying no to what drains you. Like choosing joy even in the middle of the fight. And when you've walked through a health crisis and come out the other side, no matter how scarred or changed, you carry with you a wisdom that can't be taught. You've seen the edge, and you know now what truly matters. There are few things more humbling than financial disaster. When the bills stack up faster than the income, when your bank account balance haunts your sleep, when the phone rings and you hesitate to answer because you already know it's a debt collector. When you feel ashamed walking into the grocery store, calculating every dollar, holding back tears as you silently put something back on the shelf. Losing money, losing stability isn't just stressful. It can feel like losing your dignity. Because in this world, we tie so much of our identity to our net worth. What we drive, where we live. How we dress, what we can afford. So when the money dries up after a job loss, a failed business, an economic collapse, or just a string of bad decisions, you don't just feel broke. You feel broken. You start to question everything. Am I a failure? Will I ever bounce back? Why is everyone else moving forward while I'm stuck in survival? And worse, society isn't kind to the broke. People praise resilience after the comeback, but during the storm, you're invisible, forgotten, judged. But here's what they won't tell you. Financial disaster is not the end of your story, it's the furnace that forges your strength. Because once you've hit financial rock bottom, Something powerful begins to awaken resourcefulness. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You stop depending on luck, on chance, on the system, and you start looking inside. You get creative. You turn skills into income. You learn the value of a single dollar. You discover how to stretch, to save, to survive, and then, slowly, how to build. It's in the silence of bankruptcy, eviction notices, and overdraft emails that you hear something new, your grit, your vision, your will to rise. You begin to unlearn the lies that wealth equals worth, that luxury equals happiness, that struggle means shame. No, it means you're human and you're learning, because financial rock bottom has lessons the wealthy never learn. How to make something out of nothing, how to show up when it's uncomfortable, how to hold on to hope when the numbers say otherwise, and more importantly, how to redefine success not by how much you accumulate, but by how deeply you grow. You find yourself measuring wealth differently now, not by the size of your house, but by the peace in your home, not by your paycheck, but by your purpose, not by the clothes you wear, but by the courage it took to keep going. There's a shift that happens when you realize you can survive. What you once thought would destroy you, you become unstoppable not because you have more money, but because you have more mindset. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You stop chasing an image and start chasing integrity. And eventually, something wild happens. You start to rebuild. Not overnight. Not perfectly, but piece by piece, step by step. You pay off one bill. You launch a side hustle. You learn financial literacy. You ask for help without shame. You stop seeing scarcity as your identity and start seeing it as your turning point. Because money can come and go, but the character you build in the fire of financial struggle, that stays. And when you come out the other side wiser, stronger, bolder, you'll know it wasn't the money that made you rich. It was the resilience. There's a unique kind of heartbreak that only creators know. It's not just the pain of failure, it's the pain of pouring your soul into something and watching it fall flat. You give your time, your heart, your sleepless nights. You chase a vision. You shape it with your hands, your voice, your mind until it becomes something real. And then no one notices, or worse, people notice, and they reject it, criticize it, mock it, ignore it. Creative failure stings deeper because it's not just about effort, it's about identity. When your art fails, it can feel like you've failed. Whether you're a writer, an artist, a musician, an entrepreneur, a speaker, or a dreamer of any kind, you know what it's like to create something and offer it to the world. Like an open hand, only to be met with silence or slammed doors. And it's easy, so easy to start believing the lie. Maybe I'm not good enough. But let me remind you of something powerful. Every great creator has failed. Not once, not twice. Over and over. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter saw the light of day. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Even Van Gogh, one of history's most revered artists, sold only one painting in his lifetime. Creative failure is not the end of your story. It's a necessary part of becoming who you truly are. Because when your work is rejected, when your passion doesn't get applause, you're forced to confront the most important question of all. Why am I doing this? If the answer is fame, attention, or approval, then rejection will destroy you. But if the answer is truth, if the answer is because I can't not do this, then rejection becomes your fuel, not your finish line. You learn to create for expression, not just for recognition. You stop shaping your art to please the masses and start shaping it to reflect your soul. And that's when something beautiful happens. You reinvent. You let go of perfection. You stop chasing trends. You find your voice, not the one that pleases everyone, but the one that heals you. Because failure strips away the ego and leaves behind the essence. It removes the pressure to be someone you're not and gives you the freedom to explore who you really are. In the fire of rejection, you develop resilience. In the silence, you sharpen your message. In the discomfort, you deepen your truth. And slowly, piece by piece, you rebuild this time not just as a creator, but as a force. Not just producing content, but producing impact. Not just chasing dreams, but becoming the dream itself. You stop measuring success by likes, shares, sales, or applause, and you start measuring it by authenticity, by how deeply your work resonates with the right people, not the most people. Because not everyone will get it. Not everyone is meant to. But those who do, those who feel seen, moved, awakened by your work, they're the reason you keep going. Creative failure is never wasted. It teaches you what no success ever could. How to endure. How to adapt. How to stay true to your vision even when the world isn't watching, and when you keep showing up, when you keep creating, even in the face of silence, when you choose to make beauty from rejection, courage from critique, and purpose from pain, you stop being just a creator. You become a revolution.